You keep waiting to be happy, waiting for the promotion, waiting for the relationship to settle down, waiting for the bank account to finally breathe, waiting for a version of your life that has no weather in it at all. I need to tell you something plainly, because it seems nobody else will. That day is not coming. Not because your life can't get better. It can. It probably will, if you do what this hour is about to ask of you. But because you've been treating happiness like a prize waiting at the finish line, when it was never a prize. It's a crop. And crops don't grow at the finish line. They grow in the field you are standing in right now. Today, in this weather, with these bills, this body, this family, this exact unfinished season of your one and only life. Here is the sentence that should sting a little, and I mean that as a kindness, not a punishment. It is not your circumstances keeping you from being happy. It is your philosophy, not your boss, not your bank account, not the year you were born, the family you were born into, or the decade that didn't go the way you drew it up on paper. Your philosophy, the quiet, invisible way you've been interpreting your life, most of it without ever choosing to. Put two people in the exact same field, under the exact same gray sky, and one of them will tell you the ground is cursed. The other is already on his knees, pulling weeds, because he knows something the first one has never let himself learn. Nobody hands you a harvest. You grow one. So let's be honest about where you actually are, right now, watching this. You are not broken. You are untrained. Nobody ever sat you down and taught you that joy is a discipline, the same as your health, the same as your finances, the same as the posture you're sitting in right now. So you've done what almost everyone does. You've been waiting for the outside of your life to feel different, before you let the inside feel good. You watched people around you handle bad days by white-knuckling through them, or drowning them in distraction, or quietly deciding to expect less from life. And you assumed that was simply what adulthood was. Nobody ever showed you a third option. There's always been a third option. That ends today. Not because I'm about to hand you a trick, a hack, or a 5-minute morning routine that fixes 15 years of waiting. Because you're about to learn how to farm. And by the end of this hour, you are going to understand something that changes how every single day of your life feels from here forward. Happy is not a place you arrive at. Happy is a field you tend. Let's talk about the gap. Not the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You already know that gap. You feel it every night before you fall asleep, and every morning before your feet hit the floor. I'm talking about the gap underneath that one. The gap between wishing and doing. Wishing says, I wish I felt better about my life. Doing says, what am I going to feed my mind in the next 10 minutes? Wishing is a spectator sport. You sit in the stands of your own life, watching the scoreboard, hoping the numbers change on their own. Doing is climbing down onto the field, picking up a tool, and getting your hands into soil that doesn't care, yet, how you feel about it. Here's the part almost nobody says out loud. Wishing feels like progress. That is exactly what makes it so dangerous. You can wish for an entire year. Journal about it. Talk about it at dinner. Scroll past 100 quotes about it on your phone. And feel, the whole time, like you're moving. When really, you've just been standing in the same spot, watching the weather, waiting for somebody else to plant something for you. Nobody is coming to plant your field. I'm sorry if that's the first time anyone has said it to you straight. It's also the best news you'll hear all week, because it means the field has been yours this entire time. So let's name the two philosophies plainly, because you are living inside one of them right now, whether you've ever noticed it or not. The first philosophy says, my happiness is a reaction. Life happens, and then I feel something. Good traffic, good mood, rude email, ruined afternoon. Under this philosophy, you are not a person. You are a thermometer. You don't set the temperature of the room. You just report it, faithfully, all day long, at the mercy of whatever walks in the door. The second philosophy says something completely different. My happiness is a decision I renew every single morning, on purpose, regardless of the weather outside. Life still happens. The traffic is still bad. The email is still rude. But you are no longer a thermometer. You are a thermostat. You do not simply register the temperature of your circumstances. You set the temperature of your response. Same rude email. Two different people. One ruins her entire afternoon. The other reads it, feels the sting for exactly as long as it deserves, and gets back to building her day. What's the difference between them? Not the email, the philosophy. Picture two people getting the same 6 a.m. wake-up call, a flat tire, the very same morning, in the very same parking lot. One of them spends the whole drive to work rehearsing the injustice of it, arriving already exhausted before the actual workday has even started. The other one calls roadside assistance, puts on a podcast, and walks into the office 20 minutes late with a decent story to tell. Same tire, same morning, two different philosophies, doing two completely different things to two identical circumstances. This is the gap you have been living inside without ever knowing its name. You've been trying to change your feelings by rearranging your circumstances, when the whole time, the lever was somewhere else entirely. Now hear me carefully, because I am not about to stand here and tell you circumstances don't matter. They do. Money problems are real. Grief is real. A body that hurts. A marriage that's straining. A year that knocked the wind out of you. All of it is real. And I will never tell you to smile through something that has earned your tears. But I will tell you this, because it's true whether you like it or not. Two farmers can inherit the exact same drought. One spends the season cursing the sky. The other spends the season digging deeper wells. They will both feel the drought. Only one of them will still have water by autumn. That's the gap. Not talent, not luck, not even circumstance. Philosophy. And philosophy, unlike the weather, has always been the one thing in your life you were allowed to plant on purpose. So before we go any further, ask yourself, honestly, have you been living like a thermometer or like a thermostat? Whatever the answer, don't punish yourself for it. Nobody taught you the difference. I'm about to. Here is the first law you have to understand, because everything else in this hour is built on top of it. Whatever you plant, you eventually eat. That's the whole law. It doesn't care about your excuses, your intentions, or how badly you wanted a different result. A field doesn't ask what you meant to plant. It only grows what you actually put in the ground. And here's what almost nobody tells you. This law doesn't only govern corn and wheat. It governs your mood. Every thought you repeat is a seed. Every word you speak about your own life is a seed. Every story you tell yourself about what happened to you today, that's a seed too, whether you meant to plant it or not. Sow complaint, and you will reap bitterness. Sow blame, and you will reap paralysis. Sow comparison, and you will reap a hunger that no amount of enough will ever satisfy. But sow gratitude, and you will reap contentment. Sow ownership, and you will reap power. Sow discipline, and you will reap a version of yourself that can walk through a hard season without falling apart in it. Picture two farmers who inherit neighboring fields on the very same morning. Same soil, same sky, same forecast. The first farmer wakes up and spends his morning walking the fence line, cataloging everything wrong with the land his father left him. The rocks, the slope, the neighbor's fence, 6 inches onto his property. By noon, he has a very accurate, very detailed list of every reason this field was never going to work out for him. The second farmer wakes up on the same morning, looks at the same rocks, the same slope, the same crooked fence, and starts clearing rocks. 10 years later, one of them has a very well-documented list of grievances. The other one has a farm. Neither of them controlled the soil they inherited. Both of them controlled what they did with it. I want to be careful here, because this next part matters more than anything else in this chapter. Some of you did not plant the first seeds in your field. A hard childhood planted some of them. A relationship that should never have happened planted some of them. A decade of bad breaks, bad timing, and doors that slammed shut through no fault of your own, planted some of them too. That's real. I'm not going to insult you by pretending your field started out level and fair, because for a lot of you, it didn't. Maybe somewhere along the way, somebody planted the belief that you're not enough, that good things happen to other people, that you have to earn rest, that love has to be chased instead of received. You didn't choose that seed. A parent, an ex, a hard year, an offhand comment that lodged itself somewhere you didn't even notice at the time, planted it for you, long before you had the tools to pull it back out. But hear this, and let it land. You may not have planted the first seeds. You are, however, the only one holding the hoe now. Every single day, for the rest of your life, somebody is going to be tending your field. The only question that has ever mattered is whether that somebody is going to be you. So look at what's already growing in your mind right now, today, and ask yourself honestly, did I plant that? Or did I just let it grow because I never showed up with a hoe? Because here's the part of the law of the harvest that changes everything, once you actually believe it. You are not a victim of your field. You are the gardener of it. Nobody hands you a harvest. You grow one on purpose, one ordinary day at a time, starting with the very next thought you choose to water. Now I need to give you the second law, because the first one raises an obvious, painful question. What happens when you're doing everything right and the field still isn't producing? The answer is one word: season. Life doesn't move in a straight line. It moves in seasons: spring, summer, fall, winter. And every single one of them is doing something necessary, even the ones that feel like punishment. Spring is planting. It's the season of new starts, new job, new relationship, new year, new version of yourself you're finally ready to become. Spring is hopeful and a little naive, and that's fine, because that's exactly what spring is for. Summer is labor. This is the long, unglamorous stretch where you water, you weed, you show up on the days nobody's watching, and nothing looks different yet. Summer is where most people quit, not because the plan was wrong, but because summer doesn't post very well on social media. Fall is harvest. This is the reward, the season everyone wants to skip straight to, and it never arrives for anyone who skipped spring and summer to get there. And then there's winter. Winter is loss. Winter is rest. Winter is the season where the field looks completely dead, the wind is unkind, and every instinct you have is screaming that it's over. You know winter when you feel it. It's the job that ends without warning, the relationship that quietly stops working, the diagnosis that rearranges every plan you had for the next 2 years, the birthday that arrives and doesn't feel like progress, no matter how hard you worked for it. Here's what almost nobody tells you about winter. It was never trying to kill your field. It was resting it. Underneath that frozen, lifeless-looking ground, the roots are still alive, doing work you cannot see, preparing for a spring that is absolutely, certainly coming, whether you believe in it or not. So when I tell you to be happy every day, no matter what, I am not telling you to pretend it isn't cold. Winter is cold. Grief is cold. A layoff, a diagnosis, a divorce, a year where everything you touch seems to fall apart. That's a real winter, and I will not stand here and tell you to smile your way through frostbite. What I am telling you is this: happiness in winter doesn't look like happiness in summer, and it was never supposed to. In summer, happiness looks like energy, like momentum, like harvest photos. In winter, happiness looks like something quieter, and honestly stronger. It looks like trust. It looks like still showing up to check on the field, even when there's nothing to see. It looks like resting what needs rest, without deciding that rest means you've failed. This is where most people lose the whole game, and I want you to hear this part especially closely. They mistake a hard season for a final verdict. They have one bad year and decide they are simply not the kind of person things work out for. They go through one winter and sell the whole farm, quit the relationship, quit the goal, quit the version of themselves that was almost through the hard part, one season before spring was scheduled to show up. Your winter is not your whole story. It is one paragraph in a very long book you are still writing. So here's the only question that matters right now. In whatever season you're actually in, not the one you wish you were in, what does this season need from you? If you're in spring, plant, even though you can't see the harvest yet. If you're in summer, tend, even though nobody's clapping. If you're in fall, gather, and for once, let yourself actually enjoy it, instead of already worrying about next year. And if you're in winter, rest what needs rest, protect what needs protecting, and keep showing up to a field that looks dead, because the roots don't ask your permission to keep living. This winter is not the end of your farm. It's just the season before your next spring. And spring has never once, in the history of the world, failed to show up for a field that was faithfully tended through the cold. Every single day of your life, you walk through the exact same toll booth. It doesn't matter how you feel, how tired you are, or how badly you wish today could be the one day you don't have to pay. The booth is always open, and it always charges you something. It only accepts two currencies. The first is called discipline. It's an uncomfortable little fee, waking up 10 minutes earlier, having the hard conversation instead of the easy silence, choosing a grateful thought over a bitter one when the bitter one would honestly feel more satisfying in the moment. The second currency is called regret. It feels free at the time. That's the whole trick of it. Regret lets you skip the booth today, and the day after, and the day after that. It doesn't ask you for anything up front. It just quietly compounds interest. And then, one day, often at the worst possible moment, a hospital bed, an anniversary you let slip by, a mirror at 2 in the morning, it hands you the entire bill at once. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. I want you to sit with that for a second, because most people have this backwards. They think discipline is the heavy thing, the sacrifice, the suffering, the hard road. And regret feels light, because in the moment, avoiding discomfort always feels light. But go find somebody carrying real regret. Not a small, forgettable one. A real one. A relationship they let rot instead of repairing. A decade they spent waiting instead of building. Ask them which one was actually heavier, the daily discipline they avoided or the regret they're carrying now. They will tell you, every time, with tears in their eyes if you let them be honest. I would have paid almost anything to go back and pay the small price instead. This is exactly how it works with happiness, and I need you to hear this part clearly, because it's the part that gets skipped in almost every conversation about joy. Happiness has a discipline too. It is not the discipline of forcing a smile. It's the discipline of managing your mind the way a serious person manages their money, on purpose, daily, with a plan, instead of just hoping there's enough left over at the end of the month. It's the discipline of catching a complaint in your mouth before it becomes a habit in your personality. It's the discipline of putting the phone down before the first 10 minutes of comparison quietly steal the whole morning. It's the discipline of choosing, on a hard day, to look for one true thing to be grateful for. Not because the hard day isn't hard, but because that one true thing is a seed, and you already know what seeds become. None of that is dramatic. None of it will trend online. And that's exactly why most people won't do it, and why the ones who do end up living a completely different life than everybody standing around them, wondering how they got so lucky. They weren't lucky. They just kept paying the small toll every single day, instead of letting it compound into a bill they couldn't afford. So here's the refrain I want living in your head for the rest of this hour, because you're going to need it. Discipline is the bridge. Discipline is the daily price. Discipline is the harvest, long before it ever looks like one. Pay it in ounces, today, or pay it in tons, later. The booth is always open. You were always going to pay something. The only real decision you get to make is which currency. Here's something about gardens that most people never stop to think about, and it might be the single most important sentence in this entire hour. An untended garden does not stay empty. You don't have to plant weeds. You don't have to work for them, water them, or ask them to show up. Weeds are the default setting of every garden on Earth. The only thing standing between a field and a jungle of weeds is somebody showing up, again and again, with a hoe. Your mind works exactly the same way. You don't have to try to grow anxiety. It shows up uninvited. You don't have to work at resentment. It plants itself. You don't have to cultivate comparison, self-doubt, or the quiet, exhausting habit of narrating everything wrong with your life. Those are the native weeds of an untended mind, and they will move in the very first day you stop showing up. This is not a character flaw. I need you to hear that. It is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It's just what gardens do. The goal was never to have a mind with no weeds in it. That garden doesn't exist. Nobody has ever lived a single day on this earth without an intrusive thought, a flash of envy, a moment of feeling sorry for themselves. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. The goal is a mind that gets worked, daily, not once, not during a good week when you happen to feel inspired. Daily, the same way a real garden gets weeded, whether the gardener feels like it that morning or not. And here's the part that should genuinely excite you, because it means you have far more control than you've been acting like you have. You get to choose what you plant on purpose. One grateful thought by itself does almost nothing. It's a single seed in a very large field. You plant it, and if you're honest, you probably won't feel much of anything that day. But 1,000 grateful thoughts, planted one ordinary day at a time, that's not a mood anymore. That's a personality. One act of discipline, resisting one complaint, choosing one hard truth over one comfortable lie, does almost nothing by itself either. But 1,000 of them? That's not willpower anymore. That's character. And character, unlike a mood, doesn't evaporate the moment the weather turns on you. This is the compounding nobody explains clearly enough. Your mind takes on the exact shape of whatever you feed it most often. The same way a field eventually takes on the shape of whatever seed gets planted most. So I want you to ask yourself something, right now, without flinching away from the honest answer. What have you been feeding your mind on repeat? The doom scroll before your feet even hit the floor? The highlight reel of everyone else's life, measured against the blooper reel of your own? The old argument you've replayed 400 times, giving yourself the perfect comeback you never actually said. Here's what weeding actually looks like. In real time, on an ordinary Tuesday, you catch the thought mid-sentence. I always mess this up. And instead of letting it finish planting itself, you interrupt it. That's not true. I got it wrong once, and I'm handling it now. That's the whole technique. Not positive thinking, just catching the weed before it takes root, the way a good gardener does it. Early, before the roots go deep. Whatever you've been feeding it, that's what's been growing. Not because you're weak, because that's the law. The garden doesn't ask permission before it grows exactly what you planted. The good news, and it is very good news, is that the same law works in the other direction, starting the exact moment you decide to pick the hoe back up. You are not stuck with the garden you have today. You are simply the gardener of the garden you'll have a year from now. So go weed something. Then go plant something better in its place. Let's bring this all the way home, because there's one more distinction that changes everything before we talk about how any of this actually gets built. It is not what happens to you that decides your life. It's what you decide to do with what happens to you. I know that sounds almost too simple to be the answer to something this big, but watch it play out, and you'll see it's the only explanation that actually fits the evidence. Take two people. Give them the exact same hard year. Same layoff, same diagnosis, same public failure, same devastating loss. Same event, delivered on the same random Tuesday, to two different doors. One of them lets that event become a life sentence. It becomes the story they tell at every dinner party for the next decade. The year everything fell apart. The reason they never quite trusted things again. The wound they keep reopening because, on some level, reopening it feels safer than letting it close. The other one lets that exact same event become a chapter. A hard one, a true one they'd never choose again and wouldn't wish on anyone. But a chapter, with an ending, and a next page after it. Same event. Two completely different lives, 5 years later. What was the difference between them? Not the event. The event was identical. The philosophy they ran it through. I want to stop here and be very careful with you, because this is exactly the point where a lot of well-meaning advice turns cruel without meaning to. I am not telling you that everyone starts in the same field. They don't. Some of you inherited rocky soil. Some of you inherited actual drought, abuse, poverty, illness, a start in life that was never remotely fair. I will not stand here and pretend the ground was level for everyone watching this, because it wasn't. And pretending otherwise would be a lie dressed up as motivation. But here is what remains true. For every single person, on every single kind of soil, without exception, the response is the one seed that was always yours to plant, regardless of what kind of field you woke up standing in. Philosophy is the one variable no circumstance can steal from you, and no unfairness can take away. Not the way it can take your money, your time, or your health. Remember the thermometer and the thermostat from earlier? This is where that distinction becomes the whole game. A thermometer waits for the room to tell it what to feel, and then reports it faithfully, all day, every day, forever at the mercy of whoever walks through the door. A thermostat looks at the room, acknowledges it honestly, cold snap and all, and then decides what temperature this space is actually going to run at, regardless of what just walked in. You cannot always choose your weather. You have always been allowed to choose your thermostat. So here's the question underneath every other question in this entire hour, and I want you to actually answer it, not just let it float by. When something hard happens to you tomorrow, and something will, because that's simply what being alive involves, are you going to hand your whole day over to the event? Or are you going to remember that you are the one holding the thermostat? That decision, repeated enough times, in enough ordinary moments nobody else will ever see, that's not a mood. That's a philosophy. And a philosophy, tended daily, is the only harvest strong enough to survive every single season life is ever going to throw at it. There's one more picture you need before we get to what you're going to do about all of this. Because without it, people tend to misunderstand everything I've said so far. They hear, plant better seeds, and tend your field. And they picture some kind of overnight transformation. A single big decision, made once, on a Tuesday, that fixes everything from here on out. That is not how a field works. And it is definitely not how a person works. Growth is not an elevator. It doesn't take you from the ground floor to the top in one smooth, effortless ride while you check your phone. Growth is a ladder, one rung, then the next one. Then, on the days you don't feel like it, the next one after that, climbed by someone who is, frankly, a little tired, a little unsure, and climbing anyway. Here's what nobody tells you about the ladder. You don't climb it to reach happiness, like happiness is sitting up there on some final rung, waiting for you to arrive. You climb it because the climbing is what builds the kind of person who can carry happiness once it shows up. And, more importantly, who can hold on to it when a hard wind tries to knock them back down a few rungs. Think about someone you know who seems to stay steady no matter what life throws at them. I promise you, if you looked closely at their life, you would not find a person who got lucky and skipped the ladder. You would find someone who has been climbing quietly for years, one unglamorous rung at a time, usually with nobody watching and no one clapping. I've watched people try to skip rungs my whole life. They want the confidence of someone who has survived 10 hard winters, but they haven't survived one yet. They want the calm of someone who has forgiven a real betrayal, but they haven't done the work of forgiving anything smaller first. So they fake the top rung, the confidence, the calm, and it cracks the very first time real weight gets put on it, because it was never actually built, it was performed. Meanwhile, somebody else, with half the talent and none of the shortcuts, just kept climbing, rung by rung. Bad day, climb anyway. Great day, climb anyway. Boring, forgettable Tuesday, climb anyway. And one day, without any single dramatic moment you could point to and say, that's when it happened, they looked down. and they were simply, quietly, a different person than the one who started climbing. So here is the only honest instruction I can give you about the latter. Stop asking your life to be easier. Start asking yourself to become someone stronger. Because here's the secret hiding inside that sentence. The moment you stop waiting for an easier life and start building a stronger self, the life doesn't need to get easier anymore. You've already climbed high enough to carry the weight of the one you've actually got. Maybe your next rung is forgiving someone you've been punishing for a mistake they made years ago. Maybe it's finally having the conversation you've rehearsed in the shower 40 times. Maybe it's smaller than either of those. Maybe it's just getting through one more hard morning without reaching for the thing that numbs it instead of the thing that heals it. You don't need to know what rung 15 looks like. Rung 15 isn't your job today. You don't need to see the whole ladder today. You only need to see the next rung. And the next rung for you, starting right now, looks exactly like this. Enough philosophy. You didn't come here for a lecture. You came here because some part of you is tired of waiting. And that part of you is right to be tired. So let's talk about tomorrow morning. No, let's not even wait that long. Let's talk about today. Not 5 years from now. Not when things calm down. Not once I get through this busy season. Today, because the field doesn't care when you finally feel ready. It only cares what you actually plant. Here is exactly what that looks like. In plain, doable, unglamorous pieces. 6 small disciplines. None of them will trend. All of them will change your life if you let them compound. The first, win the first 10 minutes. Before you check your phone, before the world gets a single vote on your mood, decide, on purpose, out loud if you have to, what kind of day you're choosing to have. This isn't denial. It's simply refusing to let a stranger's headline or a coworker's mood set your thermostat before you've even had coffee. The second, keep a harvest journal. Every night, 3 lines. Not vague gratitude fluff. Specifics. What did I plant today? What actually grew from it? What am I planting tomorrow? This takes 90 seconds and does something remarkable over time. It trains your mind to go looking for the harvest instead of the weeds, because whatever you're looking for, you tend to find. A real entry might look as small as this. Planted. Had the hard talk with my sister instead of avoiding it again. Grew. It wasn't as bad as I'd built it up to be. Tomorrow. One honest conversation I've been putting off at work. No poetry required. Just an honest accounting. The third. Guard the gate. A farmer fences his field against animals that would trample the crop before it has a chance to grow. You need the same fence around what you watch, who you spend your evenings listening to, how much doom you let yourself scroll through before breakfast. This isn't about pretending the world is fine. It's about refusing to let every passing animal trample a crop you haven't even harvested yet. The fourth, do one hard, undramatic thing every single day. Make the bed. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Skip the snooze button. It doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is that it's a rep. You are training the exact muscle that chooses discipline over comfort. And like any muscle, it only gets stronger under load. The fifth, practice the pause. When something rude, unfair, or just plain bad happens, and it will, probably today, insert one single breath between the event and your reaction. That breath is not nothing. That breath is where your entire philosophy actually lives. Everyone can control their thermostat in a calm room. The whole game is won or lost in that one breath, in the room that just went cold on you. It sounds almost too small to matter. It isn't. The difference between a marriage that survives a hard decade and one that doesn't is often nothing more dramatic than thousands of these single breaths, taken instead of skipped, one ordinary disagreement at a time. The sixth, end the day with an accounting, not a grade. Don't ask, did I do good enough today? That question only ever produces shame, and shame doesn't grow anything worth eating. Ask instead, what season am I actually in? And what does tomorrow's version of this season need from me? Then go to sleep, and let tomorrow answer that question with action instead of worry. None of this is a hack. I need you to hear that clearly, because the internet has trained you to look for a trick, a shortcut, a 5-minute morning routine with a name and a hashtag. This isn't a hack. This is character, built one unglamorous rep at a time, the exact same way every field that has ever fed anyone was built. Not with a single miracle planting, but with 1,000 ordinary mornings nobody else was watching. You don't need all 6 of these perfectly, starting today. You need one of them, imperfectly, starting today. Pick one. Not the easiest one, the one you already know you've been avoiding. That's the one with your name on it. Now let me show you where this actually leads, because a discipline without a destination is just discomfort with extra steps, and you deserve to see exactly what you're building toward. If you keep waiting, if you keep telling yourself that happiness starts once the circumstances finally cooperate, here's what 5 years from now looks like. It looks a lot like today. Not because time didn't pass, but because nothing was ever planted in it. You'll be older, with the exact same untended field, wondering, quietly, why nothing ever seems to grow on its own. That's not a punishment. That's just the law of the harvest, still working, patiently, whether you cooperate with it or not. But if you take just one of those 6 disciplines and actually run it for a year, then keep running it for 5, here's what starts happening, and I want you to actually picture this, not just hear it. The first few weeks, almost nothing changes. That's normal. Seeds don't announce themselves. You'll wonder more than once if you're wasting your time. Keep going. Somewhere around month 3, you'll notice something small and strange. A bad morning doesn't wreck your whole day anymore. You still feel the sting. You just don't live in it for 6 hours the way you used to. Somewhere around month 8, people close to you will start to notice. Before you even see it in yourself, you'll be steadier in the room, less reactive. The kind of person who doesn't need the day to go perfectly in order to be pleasant to be around. And that, quietly, becomes one of the rarest and most magnetic qualities a human being can have. By year 1, you will have built something most people never build in an entire lifetime. A mind you actually trust. Not a mind that never has a hard day. That garden doesn't exist, remember. But a mind that knows exactly what to do with a hard day when it shows up. Because you've run the drill a few hundred times already. Picture an ordinary Tuesday, 5 years from now. Something goes wrong before 9 in the morning. It always does. That part of life never fully stops. The old version of you would have carried that one bad moment like a stone in your shoe for the rest of the day, limping through every meeting, every conversation, quietly ruined. The new version of you feels it, names it, gives it exactly the 90 seconds it deserves, and then keeps walking, stone gone, because you built a mind that knows how to set a stone down instead of carrying it out of habit. Picture something else, further out. A holiday dinner, 5 years from now. The kind that used to end in a tense car ride home. Someone says the thing they always say, the little dig, the old family script you've heard 100 times. The old you would have absorbed it, stewed on it for the whole drive, brought it into the house, and let it sit there for a week. The new you hears it, feels the same old sting for exactly as long as it deserves, and chooses, on purpose, the way you've now practiced 1,000 times, not to let one comment run the rest of the evening. Nobody at that table will ever know what you didn't do. That's usually how the biggest changes in a person actually look from the outside, like nothing happened at all. By year 5, if you kept tending, through winters, through the boring middle of summer, through a few seasons that genuinely tested whether you meant any of this, you become something the world doesn't have very much of anymore. A person's storms don't scare. Not because your life became stormproof. Nobody's does. But because you stopped being surprised by weather and started being prepared for it, the same way a farmer who's survived a dozen winters plants his spring crop with a calm, quiet confidence that a first-year farmer simply doesn't have yet and can't fake. That confidence shows up everywhere. In how you handle a hard conversation with your kid. In how you recover from a setback at work that would have wrecked you 5 years earlier. In the simple, almost boring fact that most of your days genuinely feel good to be alive in. Not because life got easy, but because you got strong enough to be happy inside a life that was never going to be easy for anybody. That's the whole promise, and it was never a complicated one. If you do this daily, you get a harvest. If you keep waiting for the weather to change, you get the same field, one more year older. The same amount of time is going to pass either way. The only real question left is what's going to be growing in it. So let's go back to where we started. You keep waiting to be happy, waiting for the promotion, the relationship, the bank account, the season, with no weather in it at all. I told you, at the very beginning of this hour, that the day you're waiting for is not coming, and I meant it. But I also promised you that wasn't bad news. Here's why. You were never actually waiting for your circumstances to change. You were never actually waiting for your circumstances to change. You were never actually waiting for your circumstances to change. Permission to stop blaming the soil. Permission to stop calling it luck when you see it growing in someone else's field. Permission to finally believe that you, tired, imperfect, still figuring it out you, are allowed to pick up the hoe and start today, instead of the mythical, better prepared version of you that was always going to start someday. So here is your permission, plainly, the only way I know how to give it. You don't need a better life to start being happy. You need to start being happy, on purpose, daily, one small disciplined season at a time, to build a better life. Not 5 years from now. Tonight, before your head hits the pillow, plant one seed you'd actually be proud to harvest. One honest word instead of a complaint. One disciplined hour instead of a wasted one. One grateful thought instead of a grudge you've been watering out of habit. That's it. That's the entire secret this hour was built around, and it was never really a secret at all. It was just waiting for someone to say it to you plainly enough that you couldn't look away from it anymore. You are going to close this out and walk right back into your actual life. The same job, the same family, the same unfinished list of problems that were sitting there before you pressed play. Good. That's exactly where the farming happens. Not in some future, easier version of your life. In this one, today. You were not placed in this field to stand at the fence, arms crossed, waiting for better weather. You were placed here to farm. So stop waiting to be happy. Go get your hands dirty.